Alright, hi everyone, my name is Will, for anyone who do not know me, and today I'm going to talk about the connection between Buddhism and TCM, or traditional Chinese medicine. So let's begin. First, I will start with my personal experience. I was introduced to Buddhism initially by two books. In the last summer or summer of 2020, I found two books inside my house, and those books are from my mom. And looking at the cover, I think that they might be very interesting to me. So I start reading and found that indeed they are very interesting, and they're both about the Buddhism. So the first one is called Old Path, White Cloud, and this book basically introduces the history of Buddhism and how the Buddha grows up as a child and finally founded this religion called Buddhism. And the second book is called The Path, A Guide to Happiness. So this book was written by a Tibetan Buddhist. So it's mainly talk about the Buddhism in Tibet, which is slightly different from the Buddhism in other countries because the Tibetan Buddhism believes that a Buddhist should try to save everyone inside the world, every creatures in the world. But for other branch of Buddhism, it believes that as a Buddhist, we should only try to save ourselves. And the thing that I found very interesting in the two books is that Buddhism really, or the thing that I found useful is that the Buddhism has taught me how to live a happy and healthy life, I would say. I'll give an example in this book, The Path, A Guide to Happiness. In this book, it talks about like in the world, we usually had a lot of pains, a lot of sufferings. Then how can we relieve those pains? Is through maybe some practices as meditation or being a vegetarian or having less desire simply. And I will talk about those things more detailedly later. Personally, I practice meditation especially when I'm stressful, such as before an exam or before important events, so that I can really calm myself down. And I found it to be very useful for me personally. And also, I've been a vegetarian for 2 months, just because I want to try, or I want to feel like I want to feel I want to know how does it feel to be like a vegetarian. And I found that like during those 2 months, indeed, there's a slight change in my body. I found that I kind of really have less desire. I know this is kind of a mystical or a superstition, but that's how I feel, right? But later I have to quit to become a vegetarian because not only because of my parents, that they think that eating vegetables all the time is will not give me enough nutrient, and also because personally the vegetarian food in my schools really sucks. Yeah. And then you maybe start wondering right now why I think there's a connection between TC and Buddhism. And honestly, I will tell you that the connection initially is not discovered by myself. Instead, it is from it's kind of like I heard a lot of TCM doctors, a lot of famous TCM doctors who practice or who study on Buddhism, and I think of this way. I don't think that this is a coincidence or something like that. There might be a correlation or even a causation, right? As I dig deeper into Buddhism, into both Buddhism and TCM, I found that indeed there are some connections. And here I'm going to share with you all the connections between the two things that I found. There are mainly two connections summarized in the table of content. First one is about adjusting our mindset. The second one is about our relationship with nature. I'll start with the first one, adjusting our mindset. So for this one, Buddhism believes that through meditation, through eating vegetables, through discarding our desires, which is somehow similar to Taoism, and knowing what we are thinking all the time, can allow us to have a healthier mindset. And I would say that indeed, some of those things are proven to have this effect, such as meditation, which has been proven scientifically that it can reduce our level of stress, and also having less desires will kind of allow us to have less, will kind of make us have less, I don't know, thought, or making us have less worries. And being a vegetarian is also proven to be healthier by science, as a lot of time those oily meat or something will become waste in our body, and that may cause some malfunction. And the last bit, which is knowing our thought. Yeah. So actually, this is the phrase I translated into English. Originally, I know it in Chinese. It's called 知心, which is like understanding what our heart is about. So in English, I think knowing our thought is the closest translation that I can get. And it basically means that we should know, or we should understand what we are thinking all the time. And I think this is quite right, because in a lot of time, we do not know what we are thinking or why we are thinking this, such as like, we have a desire. Usually, we do not know why we want something, right? If you want to eat pizza for lunch, but in a lot of time we do not know why we want to have pizza. But Buddhism tells us that we should know, or we should be the master of our thought. So it's kind of like the Plato's idea that like our thought is like the horse, and our souls is like that we as a person should be the charioteer that can guarantee that can master the horse. It's like we should be in control of our thought, instead of letting our thought to be in control of ourselves. So it's kind of like this. And I would say that yeah, because I've practiced some of these, as I've mentioned. I would say that those kind of methods kind of works. And what does Buddhism believes? Why we should do so? Why does Buddhism believes in so? Is because by practicing those things, Buddhism believes that we can avoid suffering, we can reduce our suffering, and thus we can avoid having diseases. Yeah, because TCM really believes that we imagine a lot of diseases, which means that a lot of diseases originate from our thought. Like I've previously heard a story that a person who had a cancer, and the doctor says that the doctor kind of by some mistake gives a false report to that person and says that he does not have cancer. Then in the end, or after a couple of months, the person really get recovered from the cancer. So it's kind of saying that our mind, or our thought, our belief is crucial, and it's determinant for our diseases. If we have a healthy mindset, we can prevent a lot of diseases from happening, right? And this is also because, and it's also reflected in like nowadays world, like there's an increasing demand of mental doctors, just because we have too much stresses every day. However, by meditation, by discarding our desires, we can have less worries, and we can reduce the burden on our thought and our desires on ourselves. And finally, all those things will make us calm, relax, and according to TCM's theory, we can live a healthier life. We can avoid a lot of diseases from happening. So it's kind of like that. And the second point I want to share is about our relationship with nature according to Buddhism's Buddhism's perspective, point of view. Buddhism believes that we as humans should really be a part of nature, and this is very similar to Taoism. There's a very vivid analogy in Buddhism that we ourselves are like the tides inside the sea. Oftentimes, we as the tides, we think that we are detached from the sea, and we want to be detached, but in the end, we're just a part of the sea, right? We cannot survive without the sea. And the similar relationship is found between mind and nature. Mind is essentially a part of nature, a part of the big family. However, we think that we are the master of the nature. We want to be detached from nature. However, in the end, will we just find ourselves to be within nature instead of above or detached from nature? Um, so I really like this analogy because I think it just captures the essential ideas of Buddhism, right? That we should try to achieve a harmony with the nature, and yeah, and this is exactly what TCM believes. That TCM believes we should kind of adjust ourselves according to the changes of nature. For example, it's very intuitive or is like common sense. You might think it's common sense, but indeed, I think by following the following steps, we can actually live a healthier life, such as by wearing appropriate clothes in different seasons, like wearing warm clothes enough, in wearing clothes that is warm enough in winter will prevent us from getting cold, right? Maybe those are cliche, but indeed, I think those are effective ways for reducing our for reducing our diseases, for preventing us from having diseases, right? Usually, the easiest ideas are hardest to follow, and yeah, it's basically like that. So, to summarize what I've covered today, basically I've talked about 2 points that is being reflected in Buddhism and is also part of TCM, which are adjusting our mindset and to achieve a harmony between man and nature. And that's all I want to talk about for today. And thanks very much for watching.